The most obvious visual change in the Hulu Futurama reboot comes at the start of each episode. Each episode opens with a black background reading Hulu Presents and a Hulu original. When the Futurama title card does appear, the F and T spin around for a few seconds, changing to an H and L to spell out Hulurama. There are also a few changes to the opening scene, such as Bender being briefly visible under the ship, trapped by the ship's magnetic lift. While the original Futurama series did have some progression in its story, it was largely episodic. By contrast, Hulu's Futurama draws deeply upon the show's history, building upon older episodes for its plots. One prime example of this is Futurama Season 11 Episode 2, Children of a Lesser Bog, in which Kith and Amy start parenting their children who were ignored in the previous series. Another change is an increased number of storylines parodying current events. The Futurama reboot premiere, The Impossible Stream, features a good deal of commentary regarding the business practices of streaming services.
Don't reboot a show if the quality isn't gonna be there.
And how The West Was 10100001 tackles the problems with Bitcoin through an Old West metaphor. The comedy of the original Futurama series focused on Fry and derived much of their humor from his status as a fish out of water. Even after Fry acclimated, the show still tended to focus on jokes based on the characters and their personalities. While these jokes are still in Futurama, there seems to be more referential gags, such as the many streaming show parodies which are promoted, as Fry attempts to binge every episode of the fictional soap opera All My Circuit. Most of the classic Futurama episodes had B stories that spun out of their A stories, such as the Kith and Amy romance that grew out of the events of Amazon Women in the Mood. Most of the Futurama reboot episodes lack B stories, with the supporting characters being ignored except when they are doing something in service to the larger narrative, like taking care of a comatose Fry during the events of The Impossible Stream. The Futurama reboot does put a greater focus on the ensemble outside the core trio of Fry, Leela, and Bender. A prime example of this is Season 11, Episode 2, which is a solo episode entirely focused on Amy Wong and her efforts to prove she can be a good mother. There are a lot less throwaway gags than in the original show. Characters like hammy robot actor Calculon still appear, but usually as part of an extended sequence tying into the main storyline. There are far fewer cameos by recurring characters like Hedonism Bot or the news monster Morbo, whose only purpose in the show is to offer a quick laugh before going off camera. One thing that separated Futurama from other adult animated series of the early 21st century was its ability to break hearts as well as inspire laughter. Classic episodes like The Luck of the Fryish and an episode I personally cannot watch again for my own sanity, Jurassic Bark, are rightly remembered as touching tearjerkers. The Hulu reboot of Futurama is leaning heavily in this direction, with more stories focused on traditional sitcom drama, such as bureaucrat Hermes Conrad's story about his attempts to bond with his son Dwight, in How the West Was 10100001. The romance between Fry and Leela in the early seasons of the original Futurama was a classic will they or won't they pairing. The relationship between the two waxed and waned throughout the show's many reboots and restarts, annoying those who wanted the two to finally commit, one way or the other. Thankfully, the Hulu Futurama reboot has left Fry and Leela firmly established as a loving couple, leaving their declaration of love from the end of the original series finale meanwhile intact. Phew.
Sobering thoughts from some drug-addled weirdo.
The original Futurama was not above leaning on the fourth wall, with numerous gags mocking the many networks carrying the show and the audience. The Hulu Futurama reboot takes this a step further, with several gags that seem to have the characters talking directly to the audience. Chief among these is the final scene of The Impossible Stream, in which Fry looks to the audience as he warns them to binge television responsibly.
The same way they smoke cigarettes or drink bleach.